what's up? Welcome back to an episode of the Letter to Life podcast. Today you'll be hearing from our host,
Gio
and Jordan.
And today they'll be talking about past trauma influencing your day-to-day life, personal experiences and how it kind of led to an emotional imbalance, and then masking your emotions in general. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's get into it.
Past episodes, we talked about like emotional trauma and physical discipline and the effects that can have on you at your age right now, I guess. And, you know, I guess that all comes back to like mental health in the household and, you know, specifically for us in the Black household.
Right.
Also, if these are things that sound new to you, either you know, we've just put things out in a different order, or, you know, those are episodes that, you know, you might be interested in. So definitely go check that out.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So I guess in today's episode, you know, we can kind of just start by, you know, looking at how we've dealt with problems like head on, you know, what are those coping mechanisms, you know, I guess like speaking more to our personal experience and, you know, we can kind of get deeper with it as we go. You feel me? I guess for me, my biggest, or I guess like, you know, looking at my life as a book, there was like one moment in my life where it's like, it's definitely like changed tones. I guess like, well, have you seen the Harry Potter films?
No.
Oh, well, I'm guessing some of our listeners have seen it. And for me, like my life was like the first like 3 films and it was like, you know, kind of lighthearted. There were some like darker themes in there.
Right.
But I guess like once you get to like Order of the Phoenix or Goblet of Fire, you know, things, I know it sounds foreign to you. Yeah. You probably should watch those films. You just missed out on a big childhood moment.
Oh
but,
my God.
You know, for me, there was like one moment in my life where that like completely switched and I was dealing with really, really dark undertones that, you know, I had no idea how to cope with it.
Right.
I felt like I was really lost because I you know, I guess this goes back to the parenting aspect. My parents didn't really equip me with the tools to deal with my own mental health. A lot of that was just like, hey, you know, like when you get pulled over by the cop, you know, act a certain way, or, you know, when you go out with your friends, you know, just be cognizant of, you know, how you are and like representative of the family and stuff like that. You know, it was never like, hey, you just had, you know, somebody die on you. Like, you know, you can feel this and, you know, just learn to live with that or, you know, be more understanding of your emotions. I didn't have any of that discipline in me. So I felt as though I was literally just out here with no armor, just taking tons of hit from reality and I like nowhere else to turn to, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, that was like a really, really dark time.
So what would you say are like some of your coping mechanisms for that?
Well, now I know that I'm more aware of like when I'm starting to spiral a little bit. And there's like things that I do that can like keep me grounded. I realized that, you know, at first I didn't really understand my internal dialogue, but I realized that, you know, that's actually therapeutic for me is to have the dialogue with myself and to, you know, kind of unpack the situation. And I might not like sit there and like, you know, I don't know, Drake has this one lyric that goes like, thoughts too deep to work them out with a therapist. Like, I mean, I totally disagree with that lyric, but for me, it's more therapeutic to have that dialogue with myself and like really unpack what I'm going through. Because if not, I like don't feel like I've given myself a chance to breathe.
Right.
But like that's really instrumental in my process of coping with things.
So I would say for me, some of my coping mechanisms, I guess, infamously poetry. Like I guess because when I was younger, I never had like an outlet to kind of like, you know, voice my frustration or voice my sadness. It was just mainly like just writing stuff down because I was always creative in that sense where I always like to like make up like a whole bunch of like different stories and whatever the case may be. So being able to, I guess, find like a channel to be able to, you know, let all of that go was kind of like my armor in a way, because I didn't feel like I had the proper friends to be able to, have deep conversations with in terms of like my mental health. I didn't feel like pretty much all of my family members, I couldn't, have that conversation because, as I said in the previous episode, I come from a Caribbean household. So just being able to even talk about mental health is like, that's going to be like very rare in my household. So yeah, I just really resorted to poetry. Listening to music has been a real help to me. Like, that's not a plug, but Queen Aja.
Oh my God.
Yeah, if you
might
know
as well
me,
just tell her you're her biggest fan at this point.
For real. Like, if you know me, you know that, Queen Aja, as of right now, that's my favorite artist. But listening to her music has, I want to say, I guess, calmed me down and like kind of relaxed me. Like for some of my days where I just feel like my mind is racing a million miles a minute. Her music, really helps me. And, when I was younger and things like that, I want to say really Tony Braxton kind of helped me. Yeah. But just like kind of like more slow, more calm music and just kind of like different instrumentals. Like I can just play like if I'm cleaning or something. That's something that's really helped me with like to cope with, what I'm going through. Because in times where, I really couldn't talk to anybody, it was kind of hard to have that internal dialogue with myself because I didn't know how to have that conversation with myself. Like I didn't know, like, I don't know. It was kind of just weird for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely understand that. I think music is definitely like a cultural thing that we all kind of share in and are able to have that outlet. Or, but what I'm kind of curious to know, and I've like kind of been thinking this, so I really want to know your answer. Like, the trauma that you've gone through, like, and I know we talk about it more in like a positive light, but like, how has that affected you as a person? Like, what, like I imagine it like a scar, like what are your scars?
I want to say this is going very into nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But back in 2014/2015, I'm not going to get into, specifics, but, somebody really broke my trust. And from that point on, like, I didn't feel like I can really trust somebody in the way that I want to. So I guess the way how that's kind of prevalent in my life now, that kind of affects like the new relationships or friendships that I, want to form now, because I always sometimes think that somebody has an ulterior motive. Like nobody really has my best interest at heart, like how I have theirs at heart. And just when it comes to like the business side of everything, being able to connect and network with different people, sometimes I feel so out of touch and so disconnected from a lot of people that it's like, I don't know if I'm more comfortable just staying by myself or if I have to, I guess, bite the bullet and, put myself out there to be able to trust somebody again. And that, kind of touches back on, the first episode about, allowing your heart to break, because you have to, I guess, sit with, the thing that you're going through and kind of deal with those internally and by yourself to be able to, move forward and actually have those conversations about, testing the deep waters to, trust somebody again or, whatever the case may be. So what about you?
Ooh, I think I have to go into a little bit of specifics for it to kind of make sense.
Right.
Like when I was like a junior in high school, like, I like formed a friendship with someone that was like, this is gonna be like a lifelong friend, like you never like think at any point that could just like be taken away from you, and it was. And like, I had no idea like how to move on from that. And it's something that still like affects me to this day. And like, I have really bad problems with like seeing myself as a good person. Because I was like, oh man, I could have like done so much, I could have like changed
Right.
So many things. And, I know now there's like what happened and it's in the past, but it still doesn't like take away from that trauma, so like, I know I struggle with like, I don't even want to say self-confidence because I do have confidence in myself. But I struggle with seeing myself as the best person I can be.
Yes.
And that like hinders me sometimes from, really taking more of a leap of faith or testing those deeper waters because, I'm just not confident that, I can be the person that I want to be. And I just don't know how to kind of operate in a world that requires the most of you when I don't even know what the most is, you know?
I like that.
So I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking like, like I feel like I'm doing all I can, but you know, there'd be certain things where I'm like, wow, like, come on, man. Right. That's not something that I would see as an ideal person, you know? So, but I guess that's more of, you know, you start to have more, deeper and darker intrusive thoughts
right.
about things, and it can become like a cyclical battle with yourself, because like as soon as I feel like I've like come out of that, something happens where it's like just totally like it's almost like a beach, and it's like you're making a sand castle right there, and it's like, oh, I'm almost done, and then like the waves come and they just wash it all away. It's like, you know, I thought I had something there, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But I guess like, you know, in terms of like getting down to that level, like have you ever gone like that deep?
I probably went that deep in the sense of, well, I guess for me, it has, I guess, kind of been for the better in a way, because I'm a person where I keep people in my life, or like out of like I wouldn't say the many friends that I have, but out of, you know, everybody that I know, it's always usually that like one or two people who like I'm like kind of, you know, really held on to. And that first person ever in my life was the person who had broke my trust, you know, back in 2015. And from there, like I had no self-esteem. I had no self-confidence at all. Like I was always looking at myself like, did I do something wrong? Knowing that I didn't do anything wrong at all.
Yeah.
And I guess that same situation had happened in the middle of last year, and with a whole different person. And I guess for the moment, like, of course I'm human, like that's gonna, you know, I'm gonna be hurt by that.
Yeah.
But I guess like I looked at it from a standpoint as if like I know I didn't do anything wrong, so I'm not gonna sit here and try to beat myself up about it. So I just kind of, you know, pushed it to the back of my mind, just kind of shut it out, because it's not doing me any good, you know, to kind of like relinquish on that. And I think,
do you do that a lot? Like compartmentalize things and like kind of push it to the back and push other things forward?
I guess so, I do, but it really depends on the situation. Like if it's something like just kind of minor, it's just like I can just, you know, forget about it and just not care about it. But if it's something major, now, because before when the thing had happened back in 2015, I didn't have a sense of confidence. I didn't have a sense of self-esteem. Like I didn't know what any of that was. But now that I do have it, that same, not the same situation, but a similar situation happened to me last year. I'm able to now look at it in a different light, and I know how to kind of maneuver through that now. And I guess I've not necessarily put up a shield, but I kind of put up like a roadblock that's like, I know I didn't do anything wrong, so I don't need to send this thought down this road that's going to make me feel this way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess compartmentalizing in a way, but not necessarily, but just for the better. So
yeah. I mean, do you have things that like kind of remind you of it, or like give you that sensation like, oh man, like this could be happening all over again, or like I know there's like a feeling for me, like I feel a certain way on certain days. I'm like, oh man, like this is not going to be good.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's like a really take a mental day type thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and that's not really pessimism in a way, but I guess being realistic.
Yeah.
There are some times where I feel like, okay, well, this person can do this, or, you know, this can go wrong, or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to kind of get into, you know, keep beating on a dead horse, but, you know, the person that had broke my trust back in 2015, the way how I guess that little bridge before, you know, the friendship ended, it was silence. It was no communication on one side, and there was communication on the other side. And the same situation happened again. And when it happened, like in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is about to happen again. Like the same thing that happened to me 5 years ago is going to happen to me again. And with me having that roadblock up, I want to say jumped over that hurdle in a way, because I didn't need to care about that anymore, because I know how to kind of like maneuver through all of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's good. I mean, you're definitely self-aware.
Yeah.
That's like, for me, I always feel like that's like the first step, is being self-aware. And then you can go somewhere from there.
Yeah, most definitely.
But it's like, if you don't have any self-awareness,
It's just like, yeah. So,
but, you know, and I guess this is something that is really prevalent to our generation. And I know it's something that everybody sees.
right.
And I think this is something that we've talked about in an episode where we lightly touched on it, but like the intrusive thoughts almost as a trend on social media and stuff, where it's almost like a joke, where it's like, oh man, I'm depressed, or oh man, I'm just like suicidal, or you know, I have like social anxiety, like a myriad of other things. Like I guess like and for me, I almost feel like they're removing the weight of these situations. These are not situations to take lightly.
Exactly.
You know, and I get like there's like a common thing when people have gone through past traumas, and like to have humor about that and some sort of coping to that.
Right.
But, you know, I guess people taking that for granted and just using it as pure satire, like I don't know, kind of like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you feel about it? Because I know I have kind of a distaste for that.
Right. And I think for me, like, I think people like really just overuse the term and kind of like just run it down into the ground. Because if people look up the definition, like the dictionary definition for depression, and, you know, things of that nature, what they're going through, and this is not to minimize what they're going through, but to be able to, I guess, try to downplay the severity of like an issue that somebody's actually going through just for like your own amusement, it's like, that's kind of corny to me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I can't, like, of course, like just times where like I'm sad throughout the day, of course, just times where like I think about things that kind of bring me into like a darker place, but I wouldn't, or I can't fix my mouth to say that I was ever depressed in life. I can't do that, because I've known people who, you know, who've actually gone through, you know, worse things than I have. And that's not to put it on like a tier system, like mine is like less than what theirs is, but because everybody's, you know, experiences and situations are different. But to know the dictionary definition of what depression is and know what I've gone through, I wouldn't say that I've had depression. Like, I wouldn't say I've ever been depressed in my life. I wouldn't say that. Yeah. I've been sad, of course, but to say I was depressed, I can't say that.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care for the joking matter. Not to say that everything has to be super serious. But like, I don't know, I guess this is like more like an address to our audience. Right. If anything, like, you know, intrusive thoughts are something that, you know, has a serious weight.
Yeah.
And, you know, people can literally be having the worst day of their life, you know, and you never really know. And I guess like this is something that I empathize with more with, like the celebrity, and not to say like I understand how it feels to be a celebrity. I mean, of course not. But like, I think they're like the perfect example of being joked at for their feelings. And I mean, I can name numerous, and specifically one that, you know, gets ridiculed a lot for, you know, showing their emotions and stuff. But like, it's something that someone is going through, and I don't think it should be taken lightly, you know?
Right.
Are you someone that, and this is not a read or anything, but like, are you someone that tries to mask their feelings when they are having those types of intrusive thoughts?
I want to say to that, I would say yes and no. There are times where, you know, I would be in settings where I kind of have to mask it. And I'm a person, I don't like having a pity party. Like, I don't want, you know, everybody to think, oh, well, Gio's sad today, or whatever the case may be. I don't want that, because I don't like the spotlight on me. But there are times, like, for example, like if I'm in my room by myself and those thoughts do come back, I kind of, you know, deal with it, you know, right then and there. And I kind of like If I have to cry, I'll cry. If I have to punch the wall or something, I'll punch a wall.
Puncher.
Oh my God. But but I think I'm a very selfless person, and I care about like what everybody else not what everybody else thinks, but I care about everybody's feelings. And I never want somebody to be, sad or upset, because of me, because I don't want that guilt on me. So when it comes to like having intrusive thoughts, I always have to think like, how would this family member feel, or how would this friend feel if this were to happen to me? Like, I think that's kind of how I've kind of like maneuvered throughout my life now, because my family, that's like my core. Like that's like, they are the reasons why, I'm alive. Like I have a different type of love for my family, and each one of them in their own right, I have a different love for them. So I don't know, that's not necessarily saying that they're selfish, but I don't want to put them in a predicament to feel like, I was selfish, for, doing that. Because as I said, I care about, how they would feel. So I don't ever want their sadness or their grief to be because of me, in a way. So what about you?
I definitely do. And I don't even know if I would say it's something that like I'm not proud of, or I guess it's more like a double-sided or a double-edged blade. What is it called?
Double-edged sword.
A double-edged sword. Like on the one hand, it's something of that, something that's that severe. I hold that way closer to my heart. It's like super sacred to me. That's like sacred information to me.
Right.
And I guess it's something that I don't want anyone to see. And that's just super like selfish, not selfless, selfish way to put it. I don't want anyone to see that. It's my stuff, But also at the same time, it's definitely like hurt me in the past. And not to say I don't know how to convey my emotions, but when things are really that bad, something about telling someone else about it, it's just like, I don't even know. I don't want to emotionally weigh that person down at the same time, because it's like when you start to think about everybody has their own specific lives, like out of all these billions of people in this world, everyone has their own life going on and their own stuff that they're going through. And for me to just, lay that down like bare and naked is just like I don't know. I don't want people to be weighed down by my stuff that I got going on that I personally need to fix,
Right.
So, and I've like in the past, it's like, and those are some things I haven't been able to convey to people, and it's been left like in a question mark. Like specifically, like I can name like 2 romantic relationships that I've kind of just left on the table in the past because of it.
Right.
And kind of your actions, of course, affect people and they have consequences. So that's why I say it has its pros and its cons,
So I'll kind of ask you this. So what, I guess, pops up in your life where you feel as though these intrusive thoughts come? Like what, it's like a cause and effect type of thing. Like what in a way like happens, or what do you think about for those things to come back to the surface?
It happens a lot of times when I'm thinking about my friends. And I think that's why I probably keep my friend group so small.
Right.
Because I just can't imagine like losing another friend. Like that's just like, I never want to have to go through that.
Right.
So it's like a lot of times where it's really when I'm having the most fun out with my friends, and like, it almost feels euphoric, and it's like, you're just having this conversation and you're in this headspace with your friends that is just like untouchable. And that's when I really start to think about it. It's like when things are the greatest is when I think the worst,
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I don't want this to end. I don't want this to ever stop, and just the thought that there's nothing that I personally can do to stop that is just like debilitating sometimes.
Right.
I'm just like, oh man, I wish I just didn't have friends, then I never would have to think like this.
Yeah. I would say for me, how like my emotional trauma kind of, I guess, factors away into like my my life right now and like different situations is I always look at things where you can't have good without the bad and you can't have bad without the good. So if something is, going so well for me, there's something in the back of my head that's telling me something bad is going to happen or something bad is going to come out of this. And I don't know why.
I think I just feel like it's just a human way to think about things sometimes.
But I mean, it's kind of like unhealthy, I would say, for me in a way, because, sometimes like I can look at like if I'm walking around campus and I see like a happy like couple or whatever the case may be. In the back of my head, I'm thinking they're going to break up within the next few months.
My God.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I think about that all the time.
Oh my God. You're evil.
I don't know. I just think about that all the time. Like I just always feel like something bad is going to come from something good in a way.
Yeah.
So, when I'm with my friends or whatever the case may be, like it's good for the moment. Yeah. But in my mind, I'm like something like one of us is going to fall off or whatever the case may be. And usually the person who I kind of predict is going to fall off or kind of like detach from the friend group is the one who actually does detach from the friend group.
Yeah.
So, and as it relates to like, my intrusive thoughts, like if I see that, in a way, somebody else is not necessarily has something, but I see it in them that I don't have within myself, I guess that kind of comes back to the surface where I'm just like, is there something wrong with me? Like, how come, and it's not meant to like compare myself to somebody, but how come they have something that I don't, or what am I missing, or what's different about me that makes me not have this and they have this in a way? Or like to kind of flip it, how the things that I have and the things that you have, it may be the same, but how is yours working for you and mine isn't working for me?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I totally feel that. That one still got me in a doozy for real.
No, most definitely.
I don't know. I just like, it's something for me. And I kind of just think of things like this is, I don't have to get it, the human experience is something that's just super complex.
Yeah.
And, as we're talking about like those highs and those lows, there's always around each other, almost like passion and pain. And, I don't have to necessarily understand that at first. And I don't know if that's something that I'll ever get, even when I'm, 60 years old, but it's like something that's like, you can always come back to. You can save it as a draft. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It never has to be necessarily done unless you want it to be,
Right. And I really love that you said save as draft, because I feel like just that term in general, it had such a deep meaning behind it. And it makes me think back to, there's this Katy Perry song actually called Save as Draft. And I had listened to that album to help me, finish writing my book. And well, on that song, she talks about love, but she's basically saying that like everything that I guess that she does, or she doesn't want to feel like she's putting herself out there too much, or she's showing her emotions too much, because like she feels like something's gonna be bad from that. So she kind of just saves as draft and she doesn't press send in a way. Yeah. So I guess how that kind of relates to, your intrusive thoughts, I guess you kind of have to look at things as save as draft, because everybody, like, we're still breathing. We have tomorrow. We don't know for sure if we have tomorrow, but we're still breathing and we're still present right now. So we're all unfinished poems. We're all unfinished stories.
No, for real.
So
living document. We literally are.
Exactly. So we can't just say, well, this is the end of my story, whatever the case may be, because you don't know what's going to come next. Yeah. So just save as draft, put it into the back of your mind, all the files in your mind that you have, put it in the back, and, wherever situations present itself throughout your life where you kind of have to, think about those things, or those intrusive thoughts, kind of come back to the surface, you can go back into your file and pick it back up and read it and see how far you've grown.
I like that. You dropping knowledge, man.
So, just to kind of wrap everything up, you should always know that, your story is never finished, and view yourself as an unfinished poem, an unfinished story, or just overall a living document. Because there's always room for growth. There's always more, that can happen for you to heal from. You don't have to, I guess, in a way, be bombarded or be tackled by, those intrusive thoughts, because you have the power to be able to, overcome all of those things. So just give yourself time to grow, give yourself time to heal, and just be self-aware with all of that, and be intensive with that as well.
Oh, and also I just want to let you guys know that, your feelings are not a burden, and that's something that I struggle with. But, I try to tell myself every day that I'm allowed to feel those things, and that it's okay to feel. So, don't ever run away from that, run to it. So just allow yourself to feel.
So if you ever need help, or if you ever need to speak with somebody, and you don't feel like you can go to anybody, you can always call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. Thank you.
Letter to Life is produced with the cooperation of the student staff of WCUG Cougar Radio and the CSU Department of Communication. Thanks to Department Chair Dr. Dana Gibson and WCUG Faculty Advisor Dr. Bruce Getz for the help in airing this show. Charisma Newman produced and edited this episode. Operations Director of WCUG Cougar Radio is Sho Irakawa. Our Programming Manager is Lewis Myers. Marketing Manager is Logan Swaim. And our Production Manager is Austin Slocum. You can listen to our show and more online by searching for our call letters, WCUG.
I'm Gio.
I'm Jordan, and you've been listening to the Letter to Life podcast.